Chapter 9, Crucial Battle. After the defeat of the Northern Army, the Resistance quickly increased its influence in the north. It soon had control over all of the north and was steadily making its way to the strategic Enno fortress. To avoid mixing with the northern resistance, Kaiba returns to his base in the east to attack Nonba Castle. The Emperor leads his troops into battle at Nonba. Kaiba finds that he may be old, but the Emperor is no pushover. Red 2 standing by, all 4 lit and in the green. Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsebound Kingdom. And we're sticking with this team as we take the fight to Emperor Haysheen himself. Now, when I actually did this originally, I thought that was it for Kaiba's story. I had absolutely no idea what was going to come next, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, we haven't seen the whole continent, what's going on? It just seemed so weird that all of a sudden, we're just finishing up. It's like, wait, that's it? We're fighting the Emperor now? But everything's going to be finished. Little did I know. Ye of little faith, as the saying goes. Oh, nice. Another use of insect fire cannon. So, we're going to get ready for the battle and I can continue talking about things. Let's prepare for the fight against the Emperor himself.
Kaiba! I thought you had run off for good and here I find you attacking me! You shameless traitor! I'm going to make sure the entire Empire knows you for the traitor you are!
Huh. This from the man that sentenced me to death on trumped-up charges? Go ahead. Either way, I'll achieve my goals when I put an end to your rule. I want you out of my way once and for all. Let's put an end to this now.
I may be old, but I can still silence an insolent squirt like you. Come on, let's see what you've got.
So, you can pick up, I think, Cocoon of Evolution in one of the bases here. We have to protect this base and defeat Haysheen. Let's get a barricade. And I want Rex in first. And then we'll have Mokuba on standby. So what are we going to be facing? Insects. Alright, so we've got a lot of opponents coming in hot. This is, as you'd expect, a pretty serious battle. Now, if you'd pay attention to something Pegasus said back in... Okay, that does have laser cannon armor, and there's a healer. But we want to focus our fire here. If you pay attention to something Pegasus said in Chapter 4, there is someone controlling the Imperial Court from the shadows. I missed this. I thought that this was the final battle of Kaiba's story. Back when I played this first, I was wondering what was going on and why we'd suddenly finished this up. I'm like, hang on a minute, this can't be it. We can't be finishing up so early. There are really only 9 chapters in Kaiba's story. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't pay attention to what Pegasus said, and so I didn't realize that Scott Irvine was involved in everything. Because yes, he will wind up being a pain in the ass in Kaiba's story as well. Really wish the barricade helped out. Eventually we will get Thunder Dragon, but at the moment it's just sort of gradually wear them down, chip away at them. Might take a couple of rounds to do this. Because I didn't realize exactly how fast Hunter Spider was moving, but let's be honest, spiders can generally move fairly quickly. And the fact that the whole team is dragon monsters who don't get a power-up item for whatever reason is a bit frustrating. Suppose we'd better just keep up the pressure anyway, because if it's healing, it's not attacking me. And we can wear it down pretty well, all things considered. Might as well get that extra bit of experience out of it. Oh, if Megazala gets a good hit in. Not quite enough. Not quite enough, unfortunately. But... oh, come on, game! That's dirty pool. I know it's allowed to heal, but 2 turns in a row. Ugh. That's just frustrating. Oh god, speaking of frustrating. 2 words. Voltorb flip. I have been playing Heart Gold to relax, using a team of Pokemon I've never used before. Now, Electrode's move pool sucks. Jinx's move pool, you have to get Smoochum to actually make it usable, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. And then there is... then there is the matter of Pokemon not learning Thunderbolt and things like that freely. Real pain in the backside. Real pain in the backside. So I at least got Psychic by breeding a Smoochum, getting it a good nature and getting it to level 35. But Ice Beam, bad luck. You've got to grind for TMs, and unless you trade them over from Diamond, Pearl or Platinum where there are only 4,000 coins. And even that is still a pain in the butt. You have to grind for ages playing Voltorb Flip. It's horrible. Now, on the surface, Voltorb Flip is a skill-based game, but it's not that skill-based. So you can set up certain strategies. For example, you have to find all of the coin multipliers, all of the 2 and 3 times coin multipliers while avoiding the Voltorbs. If you pick a Voltorb, you lose, because it's essentially a times 0 multiplier. We are going to kill this insect. It's worse than a cockroach. Really crappy attack power. I've got a barricade up. I know I do. We'll get there eventually. But so, for example, let's say that the number of Voltorbs and the total coins in the row equals 5. You don't need to select any panels in that row on account of the fact that there are no multipliers there. Come on! How much does it take to kill one ant? It's like Mr. Burns trying to step on it. Oh, good God, this is infuriating. It's persistent, I'll give it that. I have breathed fire on it. I have rammed it. I have eaten it. Oh, thank heavens. I was fully expecting it to heal then, but yes. So, you don't need to click on any of those. But the thing is, sometimes you won't necessarily get information like that. You'll get basic bits of information. You'll be told how many total coins, 1, 2, and 3 cards, are in the row and how many Voltorbs are in the row. It's a 5x5 grid, but it doesn't. But if, say, there is 1 Voltorb in a specific row and 1 Voltorb in a specific column, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Voltorb is where they intersect. There's a certain number of Voltorbs that increase from 6 to 7 to 8 and then 10 in the higher difficulties. So basically at the higher difficulties, at any time you have a 40% chance of finding a Voltorb, which is a pain in the arse. Because if you don't have any information where you can definitively shut things down by saying I don't need to click on these, or you don't have any rows where there are no Voltorbs, you're kind of stuck. You're essentially at the mercy of the random number generator. You basically have to guess where everything is, and some of the layouts are pure luck. You will have to guess from the start. And it always seems like you're going to wind up running into significant problems on account of the fact... What is coming at us over there? It's a ground unit, okay? You're going to wind up with significant problems on account of the fact that basically those really annoying... The really annoying layouts are just going to wind up screwing you over, and you'll probably wind up picking Voltorbs more often than not really early on. Especially, like, if you go for some of the safe, what seem like the safe strategies. Like, let's say there's a row where you've got 1 Voltorb, but the total coins is 10. It intersects with a row where the total coins are 8. You think, okay, that's a safe bet, there's going to be some money there. No. More often than not, you're going to wind up finding a bloody Voltorb and wind up killing yourself because conveniently, the 1 Voltorb in that row and the 1 Voltorb in that column were right there, rather than being where there were 3 or 4 Voltorbs. Somehow they managed to make the safe bets not very safe, which is incredibly frustrating. And what's worse, even though there is a bit of skill and you can plan out certain things, you'll often wind up... What does Zombie Energy Infusion do? It gives all Darklands monsters a power-up. So it's much better on Bones' team. Basically, once you wind up in a situation where there are 4 cards left, often it'll be a situation where there are 2 Voltorbs, but 2 multiplier cards left. You have to pick the right spot in order to make sure you can actually get the multipliers, and somehow I almost always manage to hit the Voltorbs. It's really annoying because it essentially comes down to a coin flip, and you can be really bad at winning coin flips and get absolutely nothing as a result. The game also has an incredibly annoying habit of playing dramatic music with, "Is this what you were expecting?" popping up on the screen, and usually this means that you've found a Voltorb. It's basically an elaborate way of giving you the middle finger, saying, you've found the wrong thing, screw you. Sometimes it is a multiplier card, but it is a sincere and genuine pain in the backside when that happens. Okay, so I think I want to... Got beast units there. Do we have any guns? Shay Hagar, we need to send a ground unit. I don't have very many flyers apart from Weevil. Let's send Labyrinth Ruler out. So yeah, apart from that extremely pointless focus on causing tension and stress, Weevil... Well, that really should be Mokubu's. I'll send Bones up there. And Weevil can probably hang around down here ready to attack that base. I think we're all set for overall strategies at least. But yeah, so apart from... So you've got all that. You've got the inherently luck-based element that winds up screwing over your strategy because sometimes you are reduced to just luck-based tactics. You've got the unnecessary increase of tension, which more often than not seems to be an indicator that you're about to get screwed over. Then, the worst part about Voltorb Flip. you can get knocked back a number of levels. If you wind up turning over less cards than the level you are currently playing, you will be knocked back to the level equal to the number of cards you turned over. So let's say you're playing level 4, you've only turned over 2 cards, and you wind up hitting a Voltorb. You go back to level 2. If you turn over 1 or no cards and hit a Voltorb, you go right back to level 1 and you have to grind your way back up again. Essentially, it punishes you for being unlucky, which is incredibly annoying. Because through no fault of your own, you might have to do educated guesswork. And that sucks. Because in video games, doing educated guesswork is usually a death sentence. The RNG will wind up screwing you over. And that is almost always the case here, and you'll get punished because the RNG wasn't nice to you. No fault of your own, you've planned everything out, you've gone for the safe bet. Like, let's say the row you're trying to select intersects with a column that has 4 Voltorbs in it. And you're like, okay, so I don't want to select anything in that column because I'm afraid of 4 Voltorbs, even though I know there's a 2 or 3 multiplier there. So what I'm going to do is quite reasonably intersect with this column that only has 1 Voltorb. Guess what? You pick the damn Voltorb, and conveniently, the space that wasn't a Voltorb in that column was in the row you were already working on. And you wind up getting knocked back down several levels based on how many cards you turned over at the time, because the game punishes you for failing. You can't just select the same level, you have to work your way back with crappy rewards each time. I have spent 3 days grinding to get 30,000 coins so I can get 2 copies of Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. And this is on top of already grinding for Ice Beam for the first Jinx I had, only to find that Jinx didn't naturally learn any Psychic moves and I'd have to grind for TMs in order to teach it Psychic if I didn't want to specifically give up the one that Mr. Psychic gives me when I get to Kanto. Voltorb Flip is horribly designed. The fact that you can't buy coins and the TMs cost 10,000 is the worst part. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. You can't buy any coins. You have to work incredibly hard to grind to get everything you want. It's a pain in the butt trying to get Pokemon. It's probably hard enough getting Abra, let alone Blasted Dratini. If you want to get Porygon, good luck. I mean, it's worse than Generation 1 where you could only buy 50 coins at a time. Like, we all know the slot machines cheat. But at least they're honest about the fact they cheat, and you can still buy coins to circumvent them. You get no such luck with Voltorb Flip. It's a luck-based mission masquerading as a skill-based game. And as much as luck in Mario Party is absolutely awful, to give Mario Party its due, it is honest about the fact that it's luck-based. The skill-based elements are very clearly skill-based, and the luck-based elements are very, very clearly luck-based. It's honest about that. There is a very clear delineation. Wait, who do I want to fight? Probably want Rex to take that one. Just to get some extra experience into Rex. And then I'll send Pegasus out to the other base. Ah, they do have healers, and of course it's the fastest one on the team. Smart. Alright, time to eat it. So yeah, Mario Party is at least very on... Bugger. Mario Party is at least honest about the fact that it's luck-based and the skill-based bits are very clearly skill-based. There is a delineation. Voltorb Flip is terrible because it masquerades as a skill-based game, but it's very clearly a seriously luck-based mission. It's incredibly infuriating. It's a pain in the backside to deal with. It's slow, it's grindy, and it's just horrid. It is probably the worst thing about Hard Gold Soul Silver. It's like the one element I don't think anyone can defend. It's like Minesweeper, but worse. There's at least a fairly strategic... Well, Minesweeper is probably a bit better, but then again, because Minesweeper actually tells you... You still have to work things out for yourself, but it will tell you how many mines are around the tile you've clicked on. That at least gives you the opportunity to plan strategy, even if it is somewhat luck-based. You need a bit of luck, but you can generally try and work things out based on other neutral spaces you wind up hitting. With Voltorb Flip, there's no chance. Like, let's say, for example, that there are two rows. You wind up with a row and a column that will obviously intersect, that are both basically like value 5 rows. That is, both the coin and the Voltorbs wind up tallying 5, so you're not getting any multipliers. Let's say that both of these have 2 Voltorbs in them. Now the big question is, you know that from the row or the column, you've taken out 2 Voltorbs. But if it's just one, if both of them are 3 multiplier 3 coins 2 Voltorbs, you know that from the one row and the one column you've taken out 2 Voltorbs, which still leaves you with a 40% chance of hitting a Voltorb at the higher levels. Then when you factor in the other row, which still has 2 Voltorbs in it, the big questions are, have you now got rid of 4 Voltorbs? Or have you got rid of only 3 because that row and that column happen to share a Voltorb? You have no way of ascertaining this. It's incredibly infuriating. It's poorly designed, and it's probably one of the dumbest game modes in anything. It's really not worth it, and I recommend importing TMs from the Sinnoh games just so you don't have to deal with it. Well, we at least got some points there. So we're going to be facing that same team with Weevil, I believe. Actually, I should send Pegasus down to deal with that one. So, because we know what we're getting ourselves into, Pegasus has a little bit more oomph. Weevil can face that team. Let's just skip through this so I can let my voice recover after ranting. Cocoon of Evolution made its international debut in Metal Raiders, reappearing in Dark Beginning 1 and a Speed Duel set. In Japan, it debuted in Volume 4. Now, Cocoon of Evolution is actually a fairly solid monster on its own, and at least bestows its stats on Petite Moth. You will need to switch it to defense, but it's got pretty good defense. It's effectively a union monster before the concept was formalized. The process of using this card does take a long time, but back in the really early days, few monsters actually had enough power to break through this defense. There would be some here and there, but not that many. You needed the big names. It probably wasn't quite worth it, all things considered, but if you somehow managed to pull off one of its related summons, then all power to you. Brain Crusher made its international debut as a promo for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Spirit Caller and reappeared in Battle Pack 2. In Japan it debuted in the same fashion, but this was its only appearance. Brain Crusher is based on parasitic wasps, which lay eggs in various host insects such as caterpillars and trick the body into incubating them. The infected creature will then wind up being used as food by the hatching young. It's a fairly nasty way to go, and it actually made Victorian-era scientists, such as Charles Darwin, wonder why a benevolent god would actually make such a horrifying thing. This card is at least fairly handy. It's sort of a precursor to YuGiOh Guardian in some ways, if perhaps a little underpowered in raw attack terms, since it has the same stats as Jinzo but one level higher. Still not too bad though. Frostosaurus made its debut in Strike of Neos. Cards released from the GX era onwards tended to be released in the same sets between the TCG and OCG. This card has appeared a few times in both versions of the card game. And if you want a solid normal monster for very heavy hitting, Frostosaurus is honestly hard to go past. It packs 2600 attack for 1 tribute, putting it a bit ahead of Summon Skull, and of course benefits from all that great normal monster support. It is actually believed Frostosaurus is Brachioradus after the effects shown on the Cold Wave spell card. They do share a level, attribute and type, but Brachioradus is perhaps a bit more impractical because it's a fusion. Wherever it originated, Frostosaurus is one cool customer and a really good ally that'll fit in quite a few decks. Alright, it's time for a Darklands duel. And as you can see, the sheer amount of AP Bones' team has, I mean, it's just that Armored Zombie is really that good. Has this got the ability to poison anything yet? Nope. But, let's see, strongest enemies. Aha! So we want to lock down Reaper of the Cards just so we can avoid healing. Good strategies. But there we are. We've had some fairly frustrating battles as we tried to navigate healers. Rex is not that strong yet. But on the bright side, Pegasus' team was incredibly good. And I forgot that Rogue Doll was a spellcaster and Bakuri Box would do a lot of damage. Oh well, these things do happen and we made it through pretty easily, all things considered. I was a bit more focused on taking care of Ansatsu because of its high speed and then shutting down Axe Raider. So we've had our fairly frustrating rant about terrible mechanics in games, but it's kind of the issue with gambling. Loot boxes have generally been seen as a considerable issue by a number of locations. I think they've largely been banned in Belgium. Gacha games are also a bit of a nuisance as well, because you are essentially at the mercy of the random number generator, and especially when it comes to characters you don't really want. Like, I do play Fire Emblem Heroes. I'm still ticked off that some of my favourite characters aren't in the game. I still want Intelligent Systems to actually be fair to Scarlet and give her a decent run of things, because they did the poor girl dirty in Fates. She had a horrible time of things. Spoilers. So, if you haven't played it, you might not have played it, so spoilers just in case. Scarlet is the only one who doesn't get to participate in the golden ending in Revelation. You recruit her in Chapter 16, she dies 2 chapters later, murdered by Gunter possessed by a Nankos. She comes back as a resurrected enemy later on, but why? After getting utterly butchered in Conquest for an utterly senseless reason, only to show us what a complete asshole Hans is, and we already know that he is. Her death doesn't serve anything. You can't even change it, and that's one of the most frustrating things about the game. You don't get to make a whole lot of meaningful choices that actually impact on things. It is telling that when I played Birthright, Scarlet was who I hooked up with. I didn't really care about that many other characters. I'm not really that fussed about most of the cast from Hoshido. I really love Scarlet and Reina. I actually like Noah's cast of characters a hell of a lot more than Hoshido's. But yeah, so all that aside, gacha games can be incredibly annoying all things considered, because there's absolutely no way to really predict who you're going to get without having to spend a lot of money. And I don't really want to do that. Ah, there we are, Cocoon of Evolution. We do want to get that, so if you're playing Kaiba's story, come to Castle Left Arm and buy it. Because we will actually be able to get Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, which is indeed one of the most powerful cards in all of Duel Monsters, along with Insect Queen, maybe there was something Joey used, and Jeff Goldblum, who is more powerful than Exodia. So yeah, luck-based mechanics are always a bit frustrating, but at the same time, when it comes to the gacha mechanics of Fire Emblem Heroes, I've had a lot of fun just building... Oh, this gets level 1 magic too. Well, there you go. I've had a lot of fun just building some of my favourite characters, even though they're not spectacular. I finally got a chance to use Camus. I refuse to pronounce his name Camus, mostly because I don't think he's French. If he was a philosopher and sometime goalkeeper, philosopher, novelist, and sometime goalkeeper for Algeria, Albert Camus, then yes, I'd pronounce it like that, but I don't think he is, so I'm a bit picky about that. I have him at plus 10. I have Titania. Both versions of Titania, who I absolutely adore, and wish she'd get a few fancier versions, at plus 10. They're all about the same, really. I have Perry at plus 10. I have quite a few cavalry units. Stahl is in there. Thaja is in there. Sonia Reed, despite the fact she is an absolutely horrible person, I've managed to make her a very competent unit in Heroes, is plus 10. I've got Valentine Silk as plus 10 as a healer. It's just so much fun being able to muck around and use those less powerful characters. Like, even though she's only a 3-4 star summon, the way I've set up Berica, she's an absolute flying fortress. Her defense is absolutely phenomenal. I've got it at, 53 defense thanks to all her skills. And I would be more than happy to give her additional skills along the... Great! Just great, Basic Insect. I'd be more than happy to give her additional skills that bolster her defense even further. Because, let's be honest, she's just that much fun to use. I think I'd better heal Basic Insect just to be on the safe side. Hercules Beetle should take out Zanki, though. So yeah, that's the fun. I'll drop a little bit of money now and then, but I don't drop huge amounts. And the other thing, if I don't like a character, I'm not going to use them. That's pretty much end of story. I have an absolute... Well, I have it I don't... Strictly speaking, I don't agree with Edelgard's overall ambitions. I do agree that Fodlan needs to be reformed, but I believe that the way she goes about it really does need a bit more thinking through, and the game pretty much implies that Byleth, however you pronounce it, is the only one keeping her from degenerating into a full-on tyrant. Essentially, both she and Rhea are just as bad as one another, because Edelgard is quite prepared to plunge the entire continent into war and possibly disrupt even more than an admittedly corrupt system just to wind up satisfying her goals, while Rhea winds up protecting a very shonky institution just for the sake of her own somewhat mad ambitions. I absolutely despise the presence of fallen Edelgard in Heroes and believe that no matter what, the fact that thing exists is going to have a permanent effect on the metagame, because when you bring out they had to bring out monsters that dealt with that. They had to bring out units that dealt with fallen Edelgard. But everything now has to not only counter the new units, but also be ready to deal with fallen Edelgard in case she winds up being a huge problem. For better or worse, I believe worse, she has ultimately defined the direction of the metagame, and it's incredibly frustrating. But then again, I don't focus on metagame too much, I just like having my grudges. In this case, anyway, I'm prepared to give some slack to Edelgard, but overall I'm not really that fond of her. I'm going to be honest. I seem to have a little more overall fondness for Rhea in a sense, but I'd also be willing to call her out on top of that. Anyway, let's actually have Kyber take a diversion to right arm for a bit, get out of the way of any enemies that may come through, and then we'll send him in. We're nearly ready for the final battle, but let's skip to it. Sandstone made its international debut and only appearance in Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon. In Japan, it debuted in Volume 3 and was reprinted for some reason. We've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous in terms of normal monsters. Sandstone genuinely bears very little of interest about it. It's actually outclassed by Giant Soldier of Stone, which is 2 levels lower but packs 400 more defense and actually debuted in the same set. If you'll remember, both of them did wind up appearing in Volume 3. So really, Sandstone was pretty much dead on arrival, absolutely useless. Why am I bothering to feature it then? It's so bad, it wound up earning a spot in my treasured crap normal monster deck, which has very strong spells and traps, but really horrible normal monsters on purpose. For me, its awfulness is memorable, much like Shadesnap. Daigusto Eggles made its international debut in Dual Terminal 5B in North America and Hidden Arsenal elsewhere. In Japan, it debuted in Dual Terminal Raid of the Inverse. The Gusto archetype combines psychic types with winged beasts and a few other monsters, so it's no surprise I liked playing the deck because I've always enjoyed psychic monsters. While not super powerful in terms of raw stats, the Gusto do have a very good toolbox with good options for their synchros, since their main looping monsters are generally tuners. Eggles is the strongest, with a helpful effect to get rid of potentially annoying cards, even though you do wind up losing some of the wind monsters you can recycle. Windar, Sage of the Gusto, is shown riding Gusto Eggles here, which reflects the Gusto humans' bond with their familiars as described in the lore of the Dual Terminal. Similarly, Winder and Kamui are also depicted with their familiars as very powerful mounts in other synchros for the archetype.
Ah, you're nothing but a pack of traitorous thugs! How dare you defy me! Today I'm judge, jury, and executioner!
Haysheen gets the same lines pretty much, and he has the same team on top of that. So if you've beaten him with Yugi, the odds are you are going to know what to do to beat him as Kyber. And we once again get attacked with a Nintendo 64 game. And they really don't like Gyaikateno Megami. Oof, that was a critical. Good start. So, which... Alright, you know what? Yeah, let's really go to town on this. There is absolutely no... So we'll soften up Axe Raider so it doesn't heal anyone. But I'm not going to wind up using Gyaikateno Megami to power everyone up. Because we're bringing out Obelisk. It's the only way this fight can go. Seto Kaiba is going to prove that he is that much better than Haysheen, and he is going to drop the god. Alright, try all you like. It's torment time! Look, I know this makes things a lot easier. I know it's not necessarily the spectacle you want. But this is in character. When Seto Kaiba beats you, Seto Kaiba rubs you into the dirt. He makes sure you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you will not be a match for him. That he will bring out his most powerful cards and remind you that you have no chance. You cannot stand up to him. Even if you do bring out something, he can still turn the tables. And it's time for the Slap of Doom! Wow, Obelisk does not mess around. And we still get plenty of experience out of that anyway. Yeah, that... Holy sh... Yeah, I softened them up, but damn, Obelisk. Respect the gods. Do not taunt the gods, and under no circumstances should you ever taunt the chickens. Doesn't end well. I think the chickens might be more powerful than gods. Do not taunt the chickens.
No! Retreat! Retreat! Deja vu! Haysheen, get him! Don't let him escape! Curse you, Kaiba! My army! My empire!
You needn't worry about that, Your Majesty.
Who's there?
This is indeed strangely familiar. Is it the same dialogue? I think it is.
What are you?
It doesn't matter, Your Majesty. The important thing is that I am the one who will deliver you from your enemies.
This is remarkably familiar. So you say you can save my empire, do you? Oh, I know what's coming. I'm screwed, aren't I?
Yes, you are, and yes, I can. I will defeat the resistance army that is pursuing you.
Good. Oh no, wait, this isn't going to end well. Just read the script, would you? Now I can rest knowing that I'll be safe. Is that better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you. For heaven's sake, you're an absolutely terrible actor. You've ruined the take. So, I wouldn't be too sure that you'll be safe.
What?
The Empire and the army no longer belong to you, Your Majesty. As you probably know, since this scenario is playing out exactly the same way, the cutscene is going to play out the same way. You absolutely know what's going to happen. I'm getting rid of you. You really should have seen this coming. But nobody ever does. You've served me well, but you've outlived your usefulness. Good work, Your Majesty. I always erase my unwanted programs, as you all know. I really should have written a better script. Don't know why we recycled it. I mean, it's not like people were going to just ignore it. They do notice when you do these things, you know. Honestly, you watching out there, are you a bit disappointed they recycled the script? But then again, I suppose they did have to make it the same in case you played in case you played this story first. Depending on which one you pick, you get the same story, but I am waffling on a little bit, aren't I? Let's get back to business and let's start attacking Seto Kaiba, shall we? Seto, we're being attacked from behind!
What?
No! What a mistake! We were too focused on the offensive and left our rear unguarded! Ha 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 ha! Sorry to surprise you all. I've taken the liberty of destroying your rear guard. How utterly simplistic of you to leave your backside so completely unprotected like that. At least put on pants.
You used to work in research at Kaiba Corporation. Scott Irvine.
I'm pleased you remember, Kaiba. I did enjoy working for you then. How's your dual disc selling? Quite the technological marvel if you ask me, but then again, I made it. I lost track of you after Battle City. What are you plotting? I could try to explain, but being the heartless, ruthless businessman you are, you'd never understand. Besides, all this talk is wasted energy. Don't you think it's about time you started planning your escape? What the heck are you talking about? While you're wasting time with your silly questions, my forces are cutting off your possible escape routes. You're so simple-minded, Kaiba. For a self-proclaimed master duelist, you've done nothing but disappoint me so far. Kaiba, we should escape now while we still can.
You may have won this round, Scott, but watch out!
So, we have once again been introduced to Scott Irvine. Of course, that may well be the first time you encounter him, but at least there is a different script. To a degree. We'll have to see where the next adventure takes us, but the story is going down a pretty familiar path, just with the Seto Kaiba themed spin. Thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, this is Red 2, returning to base.